Welcome to GeorgeWay mathTV.
So whenever you've been asked to factor, right, and the question looks like this: the ax squared plus bx plus c. So like you have three terms, like those that you see right here, right? Three terms, and it's in this form. You see how you have a squared, 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 squared? We know that whenever the a or the leading coefficient, you see how you don't see any leading coefficients for these? The leading there's actually like a 1. You can't see, but there's a 1 right there. For all these that you see. I hope you can see me right. There's a 1 right here. You don't see me, right? There's a 1 right here. So anytime you don't see any number in front of that, right, is a 1. And whenever the leading coefficients are 1 or you don't see anything, it's very easy to factor. Because now all you do is this: you put your parentheses. So let's do the first one right here so you know what I'm talking about. You do your parentheses like that, and the variable that you're dealing with right here is a u. So you put that variable right here. And now what goes here? What goes there is this: you're going to look for two numbers that when you multiply, you should get the number at the end here, which is what? 49. And when you add those same two numbers that you multiplied, you should get the middle number, which in this case is 14. So again, you put your two parentheses. The variable you're dealing with in this case is a u. So we put a u for both right here. And then you're going to look for two numbers that when you multiply, you should get the number at the end, which is 49 in this case. And when you add those same two numbers, you should get a middle number, which is 14. But let me tell you something. Mostly, right, when this last number right here is a perfect squares. Perfect square. You know what perfect squares are, right? Like we know 4 is a perfect square, 9 is a perfect square, 16, 36, 49, 64, 81, 100. So those numbers are perfect squares. So anytime this last number is a perfect square, and you know your perfect squares, the easy way to do this, you can just find the two numbers easily. You can try this. The square root of 49 is what? You say is 7. So that means 7 times 7 is 49. The signs is what you gotta be careful of. When I add, would I get a middle number, or I should change the signs? So that's the only thing you have to worry about. Find the square root of that, and then when it comes to adding, would it give you the middle number? So if something is wrong or you having problem, then you change the signs. That's it. So here, positive 7 and positive 7 will work for both. So because we got positive 7, guess what? You just put plus 7 and then plus 7. Because 7 times 7 is 49, and then 7 plus 7 is that 14. And that's it. So again, it's easier when the last number is a perfect square. So always check it like that. Square root of this, you copy it twice, and then check to make sure when you add, it's going to give you the middle number. And that's it. Well, you probably say, I really want to practice more, so I really know what you're talking about. Well, George is going to practice. So watch him. Okay, so the other guy did this. So George, how are you going to do this right here? So looking at this, I'm being asked to factor. And I know it's in this form: ax squared plus bx plus c. And the leading coefficient, I don't see anything, but it's a 1. And anytime the leading coefficient is 1, with three terms like that in this form, it should be very easy. I'm just going to have to put my two parentheses like that. And the variable that I'm dealing with is a y. So I put my y and a y right there. And now, I'm going to have to look for two numbers that when I multiply, I should get the number at the end, which is 25 in this case. And when I add those same two numbers, I should get a middle number, which is negative 10 in this case. Two numbers, when I multiply, I should get 25. And when I add those same two numbers, I should get negative 10. How am I going to find those two numbers? Well, I remember that whenever the last number is a perfect square, it should be easier for me to find those two numbers. 25 is a perfect square, right? Because square root of 25 is what? Would that give me a whole number or decimal? Square root of 25. Oh, that is a 5. So 25 is a perfect square. And square root of 25 gave me 5. So let me try 5 and 5 and see if it's going to work for this right here. So I have 5 times 5. That is 25. And what is 5 plus 5? That is positive 10. But wait a minute. I want a negative 10, not a positive 10. So that means, what about I change the signs to see what happens? What about negative 5 times negative 5? Negative times negative is a positive 25. I have to use the same number, so negative 5 plus negative 5 is what? Oh, now I have negative 10. So I just have to change the signs, okay? So the two numbers that I'm going to have to put here then, I know it's going to be minus 5 and minus 5. Okay? So I'm very fortunate that the last number was a perfect square, because that made it easier for me to find the two numbers that I was looking for to match these two. So I multiply to get this and then add to get that same numbers. Oh, this is not bad. Alright, now let's see if I really got this, because I know I got this. Okay, so this one too is the same thing. Looking at this, it is in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c. And the leading coefficient is a 1. And I know with this, I'm going to need two parentheses. The variable that I'm dealing with is x. So I have my x right here. And what goes here? I'm going to have to look for two numbers. When I multiply, I should get a number at the end here, which is a 4. And when I add those same two numbers, I should get a middle number, which in this case is a positive 4. Ooh, it would have taken a long time for me to probably find this, right? But because the last number is a perfect square, I can try to see if these two numbers will work. Square root of 4 is 2. So that means 2 times 2 is a 4. But what about 2 plus 2? That is also 4. So that means positive 2 and positive 2 will work. So I put my plus 2 and then plus 2. What about that one right here? Again, because the leading coefficient is just a 1, and it's in this form right here. I know I have to have my two parentheses. The variable that I'm dealing with is a v, so I put my v. And I'm looking for two numbers. When I multiply, I should get a number at the end here, which is 81. And when I add those same two numbers, I should get a middle number, which in this case is a negative 18. But I know that anytime the number at the end is a perfect square, which I can always check with my calculator if I'm not sure. Just put a number at the end. Square root of 81, I have a whole number which is 9, positive 9. So that means 81 is a perfect square. I can always check like that. So because it's a perfect square, it should be easier for me to find those two numbers that I'm looking for. Because the square root of 81 is 9. So that means 9 times 9 is 81. And I have to use the same numbers and see if I add, it's going to give me negative 18. So let me try it. What is 9 plus 9? That is a positive 18, but I want a negative 18. So it worked for the top, but it's not working for the bottom part or the middle number, which is negative 18. So what about if I change the signs? Negative 9 times negative 9 is positive 81. What about negative 9 plus negative 9? Because I have to use the same numbers, right? That is negative 18. So that means the two numbers that goes here is negative 9 and then what? Negative 9. And that's it. Oh, that wasn't bad. But I know that I can only do what I just did. When the leading coefficient is a 1, it's in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c, and the last number is a perfect square. So that's the only time I can do what I just did. If it's something different, I know I'm going to learn that later, how I'm going to find the two numbers too. But I know I got this right now.
Please don't forget to subscribe, tap the bell to be notified for new videos, and share.